Yeah, it's going to be. Well, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. As many of you know, heard, or found out, Religious Committee is running the services tonight, so I will be the ersatz rabbi for the evening. And we'll start off reminding how wonderful it is that we're here together tonight with Hine Matov. And since I was told more than a few times in my life that I should sing solo that none of you can hear me, we will have our choir lead us for the most part.
Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la 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 la. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Behold how wonderful when brothers and sisters can sit together in unity.
And at this point, I'll invite Eva up to light our Shabbat candles. Itzivanu hadlik ner shel shah Thank you. And that leads us to the call to worship. And so I'm going to invite Claudia and Renee to come back up for that.
Doing barfing. Ready? Aku Adonai Amevora Amevora Leolam Bared Amevora Amevora Eternal God, whose temple is the whole world.
Oh, wait.
You don't want me to read it? Renee.
Okay with you, Rachel? Feel free. Go ahead.
Oh, Rachel, are you doing? Do it. Come up. Come up.
The choreography here isn't perfect, but it'll be fun.
Okay.
Eternal God, whose temple is whole world and whose dwelling place is the human heart. We know that you are everywhere, that you are present, never leave us. Yet we are thankful for
appointed times
and chosen places
where
where
fellowship with one another, our spirits turn to you.
At this service, at this hour, and in this place, help us to feel your nearness.
The week and toil is ended, and the day of rest has come. We pause to reflect on the meaning of our lives.
Source of all creation, you have given us the blessing of work, so that by our efforts we may fashion things and use the moments of helpfulness. You may also give us Shabbat for self-renewal and sanctification. May the work of our hands
And minds be acceptable to you.
May this Shabbat enrich our lives, drawing us closer to you in truth and love.
And we all rise for the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ruchi Kevod Malchuto Leolam.
You may be seated.
V'ata et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavcha u'b'kol nafshecha u'b'kol yodecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anuki mitzavata al yam al levavecha Vishnata Livoneta Vidibarta Ba Vishiftecha Vivertecha Uvleptecha Adere Uvshoftecha Uvakumecha Ukshatam Leo Dayadecha Vehayula Totafo Tbeinenecha Uktavtam Al mizuzot beteka visharecha lemaham tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai viditem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti akem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lakem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
And as we crossed the Red Sea that had parted and jubilantly stepped to the other side, our joyful song was Mi Chamocha, which Bill and Claudia will lead us. And I didn't tell them which version, so it's up to them.
Mi
kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedam b'kodesh.
Nora
Tehilot, osei pele, Nora tehilot, osei pele. Malchutecha, Ra'uvonecha, Elokei hayam, Lifnei Moshe, Seili anu v'amru, Adonai Yimloch, Adonai Yimloch, Le'olam v'ad.
So as we get ready to start the Amidah, for those who have looked at but didn't think about, what is the first line? The Adonai Sivatai Tiftachu Fi Yagi Tehilotecha, what's that all about? It's to make sure that we are involved, we are getting our thoughts out, and we can all hear each other as well. So we stand for the Amidah if you can. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise or glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagodol v'Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevi gula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo b'yahava, melech chozer u'moshiach u'morgein. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, v'tzrat Sarah, Atar gibor li'olam Adonai, Michaye hakol atarav lahoshia, Michalkel chayim b'chesed, Michaye hakol b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim b'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunoto, Lishene afar, Mi kamocha ba'al givurot, Umido melach, Melech meimid umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Michaye hakol. Atar kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yelu lach selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. And you may be seated.
We believe in tomorrow. Altogether, power to make tomorrow different from today. We believe that poverty need not be permanent and that people need not learn war forever. We believe in people despite all that we know about them. We believe that there can still be a time of peace and a time of justice, a time of fellowship and a time of tranquility for all who live on earth. We believe that we can share, bring that day closer by the way in which we live in weeks and months. Even though the world may laugh at our dreams, it does not matter. We still believe.
Now, we often sing Shalom Rav, but I don't know how many of you have read the translation of that while you're trying to sing it. So Rachel will tell us what we've been saying in case you're not fluent in Hebrew, like I am not.
Grant peace to the world with happiness and blessing, grace, love, and mercy for us and for all the people. Israel, bless us, our Creator, and all with your light, for by that light did you teach us Torah and life, love and tenderness, justice and mercy and peace. May it please you to bless your people Israel in every season and at all times with your gift of peace. Praise are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace.
As most of you know, Adon Alexander was a hostage who was released this week, so the number has dropped from 59 to 58, living and dead, and that's still 58 too many. So we pray for their quick release. I don't know if we can keep saying for quick release, if that seems, we want it quickly, not sure how quickly it's happening, but Milt Nathan will lead us in the Achenu.
Achenu kol Beit Yisrael, for our brothers and sisters, the whole house of Israel who are suffering or in captivity, whether on the sea or on dry land. May the ever-present one have mercy upon them and bring them from trouble to relief, from darkness to light, from captivity to redemption, now, speedily, and soon. Amen.
Now, I do have a list for a little bit later in the service, but I do not have a list of people who are in our community or in our hearts who need a little extra healing at this point in time, whether it be physical healing, psychological healing, or any kind of healing. So at this point, feel free to mention any names or keep them in your heart for this tonight's Misha Berach.
Ben Ryder, Neil Kahn, Bob Roseman.
Listen, Barbara Burnett, Annie Kosky, Arnie Green, Jonathan Green.
Jeff Merle and Gary DeMarco. And Rachel will lead us.
Who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. Let us say, Amen. We shall be Kol Abraham,
Bless those in need of healing
with refuah, Shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal
Full of spirit,
let us say,
Amen. At this point, we'll have a moment of silence for private prayers. Bill. Okay, so it's not that I prepare these Torah readings, talks that often, but I always seem to get somewhat odd readings to tell you about. I never get anything straightforward like, got to the Red Sea at party, we went across, we all sang Mi Chamocha. That would be a little bit easier than the ones I get. But sometimes after reading the Parsha a couple of times, something weird strikes my brain, and that's what you'll get to hear about today. So this particular Parsha is called Emor, or Speak. It's from Leviticus, and it has multiple different parts, and it starts off with rules about the Kohen. And I don't know if we have any Kohen in the room, but these rules may apply to you if anybody is a Kohen. So part of them you may have heard. It's actually the Kohanim that are not supposed to be rendered impure by contact with the dead body. The Kohen Gadol can only marry a virgin. Now, one of the things that in reading this part, it says that the Kohen who serve in the Holy Temple need to be pretty much physically perfect. They cannot be deformed in any way. They can't be blind. They can't be lame. They can't have mismatched limbs. They can't have broken limbs. They can't have a sunken nose. They can't have cataracts. Now, it doesn't say if you've had cataract surgery, you're okay. But if you have cataracts, you're off the list. For those, and I think it happens more to men than women, but for those who have long eyebrows, you will not be able to serve in the temple. And when I think about that, one thing that comes to mind is, how do you rationalize that kind of limitation with inclusivity? With saying we think that everybody should be able to do everything within limits. But to move on, because I'll get back to the concept of how do you rationalize today's thoughts with what is the literal readings for today. It specifically states, seems like, I'm not sure how often this happened, but if a Kohen's daughter becomes desecrated by committing adultery, she is not only defiling herself, she's defiling her father. And for that reason, she is to be burned to death. Burned. And you could say, that seems a little harsh. So before we get to an interpretation of this, it's actually towards the end of this particular Torah portion. It talks about the punishment for cursing God using his divine proper name. And you might guess at this point, because of the way this story is going, that the punishment for that is death. So it did specifically say by his divine name, so in God's divine name. So I guess if you use some other name that's not considered the real one, you could potentially get away with it. But in thinking about this, I was trying to decide what scholar could I turn to try to make sense of all this. And that's when the epiphany hit me that Aaron Sorkin is apparently a Torah scholar. So for those of you who remember the scene that I'm about to describe from West Wing, I'm going to change it a little bit, not the guts of it, but I'm going to avoid touching any cultural third rails. And I'm going to eliminate some that were probably not the way the Torah tells it. But Jeb Bartlett, for those of you who have not ever heard of or watched West Wing, is the President of the United States, and the story is about the staff at West Wing and as well as his terms as president. And he goes to a reception at the White House, and he sees somebody sitting at the reception while he's standing, and recognizes her as a conservative Christian radio talk show host. And he is trying to give his prepared speech, but he gets through maybe a sentence and then glances over and he just can't help himself. He's got to interact with this woman. And he talked about how she used the Bible, and actually most of it was Leviticus and Exodus, so we're okay here, that she uses the Bible to support some of her cultural thoughts. And he said, well, you're right, it does say that, but it also says that it's okay to sell my daughter into slavery. And he talks about how his daughter is a Georgetown graduate and she's very polite and she picks up after herself. He wanted to know what would be a good price if he's going to be selling his daughter per what the Torah says. He also said that his chief of staff works on weekends, and the punishment for working on the Sabbath is actually death. So he wanted to know whether he had to kill his chief of staff or whether he could have the police do it. He also noted that touching a dead pig makes you unclean. It does actually say that. Now, he was concerned about whether the Washington football team would be considered unclean after playing. Could the team from Notre Dame play football? Otherwise, they would all be considered unclean. And what I took from this discussion was that maybe the thing that we're told, or we think we're being told, that we're allowed to think and we're allowed to question, and maybe something that was correct 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, more than that, may or may not be right today. So is there wiggle room for the philandering daughter of a rabbi that if she has a moment of weakness and becomes an adulteress, does she have to be put to death? And I think most of us would say, yeah, probably it doesn't make sense. But then you get into these fuzzy, where's the slippery slope? Where's the line? So I'll leave you with that thought, but I'll end in something a little bit more coherent and a little bit less stressful on your brain. A significant portion of this parsha is the listing of the festivals for the year. And they list things like Shabbat and resting on Shabbat. In this particular discussion, this particular portion, it mentions Pesach as you eat matzah on Pesach. Doesn't say anything about corn, doesn't say anything peas, doesn't say Sephardic, doesn't say Ashkenazi. This particular portion just says eating matzah. It does mention celebrating Rosh Hashanah. It does talk about fasting and atoning and afflicting oneself on Yom Kippur. Talks about dwelling in booths for Sukkot. And interestingly, in this list of the festivals of the year that you're supposed to follow, and it's the timetable, the rhythm of Jewish life, is listed that you may not reap the corner of your field and you may not pick up the gleanings so that you can have the poor come to your field and be fed. Which, in my reading of this, and I also used other sources, so I'm not unique in thinking this, that's interesting that looking after the poor is as important as fasting on Yom Kippur or keeping Shabbos holy, and that we should not try to apply the first half of the lesson. Well, maybe we don't have to do that. To say, well, yeah, this actually is one of those things that I don't think there's a lot of controversy in, that it raises the importance of looking after each other and looking after those in need as a way to make the world a better place. So as we go forth, try to make a world a better place and try not to make ourselves unclean or do anything that would result in somebody questioning whether we should be killed off or not. As we say, amen. And we'll have Bill now come up. You can all rise. You're able. Shelo asanu kikaye haratson, Bilo samanu kimishpachot adama, Shelo sam helpenu kohen, Vigo rolenu picho hamonam, Vanachnu koli, Umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei melech, Malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ne'emar, V'haya Adonai, L'melech al kol ha'oretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo, U'shemo, U'shemo echad. We'll now have a reading from you. Right. So you want.
We remember these, our beloved, not to be sad, but to remember. Our sorrow that accompanies their death does not diminish the joyful gift that was their lives. We remember their kindness and their nobility and their goodness. They taught us to live and love, inspiring us to the grace of their best selves. They have showered us with love and light, and as we remember them in our cottage, we bring their light back to raise up our heavy hearts. These we remember. Davida Block, Ed Colton, Gerald Jacoby, Louis P. Landerman, Lillian Tepper, Gertrude Renville, Arnold Schwartzbart, Herb Solomon, Jeff Markman, Beatrice Moore, Molly Shear, Tony Char, Mimi Wonstein, Ashton Grace Jr., Libby Ellenco, Barbara Jane Freed, Manny Rose, and this week, Clara Hoxton. And let's say the cottage together. Yiskadam, Yiskadam, Medrach, Yom Yivram, Yushay, and Yom Shed. I know you come, Omiko, when I ate the Australia Australia. I will have this man to be in the group of the nation, and you love them. Thank you, mind. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, I say, you say, God, power, you know, that, she's a law.
May be seated. Actually, I'll make a slight change. Anybody in the choir who's here tonight, why don't they come up with Claudia and lead us in our concluding song? And then we'll have the Kiddush and Hamotzi after that. Sure.
Announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat is not the same without all of you here, so thank you for being here. I also wanted to thank the religious committee and the choir for covering while the rabbis have other commitments. I didn't want to skip announcements just because we've got so many things happening this week, next week. This Thursday, we have a program navigating loss. So if you have had loss of a parent, really anybody related to you, but a child, a parent, grandparent, a pet, it's a program and it's a group to help kind of talk through and share experiences to heal from that loss. That's on Thursday, the 22nd. If you could RSVP, that would be great. Next Friday night, there's a special Shabbat service. It's an Oneg Shabbat to honor Neil and Gina Kahn's 33rd anniversary and Gina's entry into the Jewish covenant. So that'll be next Friday at 5:30. Saturday, the 24th, we have Torah study. That's in Levin Hall. And then June 1st is an important event. We've got the annual meeting. We have the Shavuot and a gourmet founders dinner. So it's going to be a big event. You need RSVP so we have an idea of how many people are going to be there so we can set up and have plenty of food. But that's on June 1st. It's going to be a lot of fun. Not all business. It's going to be a little business, but we'll celebrate 40 years of our temple. So hope to see you all at all these events and anything that you want to participate in. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This Sunday is the War Veterans Run, and anybody who's veteran or their spouses, you're welcome to that. And it's free for those.
Whenever you're ready.
Oh, say Shalom Nimroma. Say Shalom Aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael. Ve'imru. Ve'yiru. Amen. Yahaseh Shalom. Yahaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael. Yahaseh Shalom. Yahaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael.
Ve'imeru. Amen. It is the
Fancy.
last thing.
Fancy.
I'm going to have Ira come up and do Kiddush and Hamotzi. After he does that, you're all invited to come back outside because we don't want to have any food left over. And I know there's at least some, even if it's just wine, but there's more than that. Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, Baruch, sorry. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, Yahava ratzon himkilanu, Zikaron lama ase bereshi, Ki hu yom tefillah mikra kodesh zecher litzias Mitzrayim. Ivanu v'charta Yotanu kidashta Mikol V'Shabbat Kodshecha Yahava Uvratzon Inchaltam Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh Hashabbat. Fine. Pre-cut and everything. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
No, but careful.
Again, I will reiterate Mark's thanks for the members of the religious committee who came out and helped out, and thanks for choir for coming, and thanks for everybody else who isn't in one of those groups for coming out and sharing this Shabbat evening with us. So again, everybody head out this way to whatever food is left over, because otherwise we'll give it to Claudia and she doesn't want to take it all home.